and opinion leaders, policy makers, and you, an ordinary Ugandan, to first of all have an understanding of some of the issues our country is grappling with, but also to find solutions for the same. So, you joining us every single morning, we don't take that for granted, because for that reason, we wake up every single day and we work hard to ensure that you are informed and that you know what to do. For instance, if it comes to business, we shared business updates and also forex rates so that you know what to expect when you go in the market. But we also have other stories that we share in the realm of local and international news, and then our topical conversations. Now, today we'll be having a conversation with the Nurses Association, but also later we will also have another conversation regarding sickle cell anemia in Uganda. So you need to stick around because we have so much more that we have prepared for you. Now, looking at the news, yesterday the Kingdom of Uganda did launch the annual Kabaka's birthday run, which will be taking place on the 6th of April 2025. Airtel Uganda has been sponsoring this run, but also I like to see that many development partners and different companies in the country are supporting the run, which aims to eradicate the spread of HIV/AIDS in Uganda by 2030. According to reports, of every 100 people, or of every 4 people that have HIV/AIDS, one of them is a Ugandan. That doesn't put us in a good place, but I do recognize where we've come from the 90s, where the infection rate was at 18%, and right now we are at 5.6%. So good work has been done, but we still have a lot of work cut out for us, especially now that as Uganda as a country, we are experiencing the cut of aid by one of the biggest funders of our health sector, and that is the United States of America. So we need to do a lot as Ugandans to ensure that we are safe and that we have zero infections in the country by the year 2030, which is just 5 years away. So what are you gonna do? Will you join the Kabaka's birthday run? Well, with me is Robert Shirabonyonyintono in Studio B, and Julie F. Nantaba Mosisi in Studio B, just on my left-hand side. And together we'll get into the conversations of today. First of all, looking at the stories that have, inspired them, or maybe stories that have had them thinking deeper. And we see what we can do today as Ugandans to make the world a better place. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You talk about the Kabaka run and the push to end AIDS by 2030, and I'm impressed given the fact that aid has been cut off.
Yes.
This year the story is different.
Yes.
And because the Kabaka has influence in Uganda at large, and the Omulembo Mutebi, the younger generation, this year's story is going to be told differently. It's going to sink differently. I cannot wait. Actually,
I think because the kingdom has been doing this,
yes.
The Katikiro said their aim was to support this initiative for 3 years, but now they have been doing it. This is the 6th year. But now is more important than the years in the past, because now
yes.
we do not have the aid
Yep.
that we have been receiving. At least Donald Trump has not yet reviewed the executive order that pertains the aid.
Yes.
But what else have you been paying attention to?
Well, the fact that the heat in Uganda lately is as hot as a melting pot. But today's weather forecast actually states that it shall be 30 degrees highest Celsius, which is at about 5 a.m., which I think is fair, because the past few days have been as high as 36 degrees Celsius, and it's been extremely hot, causing many Ugandans to be pretty much off the streets as early as 11 a.m. and most streets looking as clear as Sundays.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hot, and the best we can do right now to take care of ourselves is to drink a lot, hydrate more, and just hang in there, because yesterday we also did get a report that at least by March there will be some rains, and the initial rains in March will actually be a bit heavier, causing a bit of distraction there. But good morning to you, viewer. Thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to start the day with you. Now, what made stories for me in the last 24 hours was the return of Connie's family, his wife and 3 of his children, back to Uganda. His former wife, in fact, Judith Achan, who's 28 years old, and 2 of his biological children, plus 1 child whom he adopted in 2005 after his parents passed on. And the 4 escaped from an LRA camp in Central African Republic and brought back to Uganda. The returnees will be rehabilitated in Gulu City, and by May they will be connected back to the community. My question though is, as they're being rehabilitated, is there anyone preparing the community to which they are going back?
Well, the community is being asked to be supportive and to understand that some of these people were taken, against their wish.
Their will, yeah.
And then for the children, we don't choose our parents.
Yes.
Yes. So if they seek rehabilitation, we should give them the support that they need. But I like that they don't just go into the community. They're first enrolled into a camp where those people that have come back are usually enrolled. And then this NGO teaches them and equips them with life skills before they are integrated into the community.
And for me, in regards to the community, it's one thing telling the community that, forgive them, they're coming back, but it's another to actually understand the experience of the community in nitty-gritty. So I hope there is a program of some sort speaking to the community day in, day out, while they're being rehabilitated on this end, preparing the community on the other end, day in, day out, talking to them, talking about forgiveness, talking about supporting them, talking about the fact that they were young, it was against their will and their wish. All of that, it can only make sense if you talk to someone on a daily and not just shove it under the rug.
Not once in a lifetime, because like Julie has shared, the community has their lived experiences with Connie and his army, or should I even call it an army? But yes, they have a lived experience. Though I think government has done a good job with this rehabilitation program, because over the years, we've had many coming back and being welcomed into the country, which I should credit the current government for doing that, because not many people have appetite to welcome back people that wreaked havoc on Ugandans, on families. So they're back, and we will see what will happen with them. Now, Julie, earlier you did share about the temperature, and today, right now at this minute, we are at 19 degrees Celsius, and it feels like 22 degrees. And at around 12, we will be at 31 degrees, and later on at 5 we might be going a bit down, but still we need to rehydrate. Ladies and even gentlemen and albinos, we need to stock up on the sunscreen. Yes. You must use your sunscreen because you're going to experience hyperpigmentation, dryness of the skin.
Thank you so much for talking about sunscreen, and allow me speak to the gentlemen. Sunscreen is necessary for you. It's not just for ladies. Yes. Gentlemen too must use sunscreen on their skins.
Yes, and with this heat wave, it means the sun rays are even more sharp. The sun rays are even more dangerous to us skins. Now, why do we wear sunscreen? It's not just a beauty product, but it also lessens the chances of skin cancer. So we need to keep this under advisement and do wear our sunscreen. Good morning, Robert. Will you or are you wearing your sunscreen today?
I think we should buy him one.
Good morning, Robert.
I think the greatest I can go is have, is this lip balm?
Oh, good start, good start. But you need
for my
sunscreen.
Lips, but sunscreen, not an African man like me with a lot of
and that's the problem.
No.
That's the problem. Black people think that sunscreen is for white people.
That's a mindset problem.
God placed me in Africa and gave me this black pygmy that is very strong.
But
I'll
it needs to
handle.
be taken care of.
I'll
You must be a good
survive.
steward.
If it's too hot, if it's too hot, I'll go and swim. But otherwise,
Oh, by
good-
the way, Robert, when you swim, you actually need to wear sunscreen immediately after coming out of the swimming
after coming
pool.
out of water.
Yes.
Because of the chemical in the pool.
See, you can't win and you can't run away. But good morning.
But I
And-
won't wear that sunscreen. There are things I can't do.
Okay.
Maybe the next generation will do. But Mutuvuga speed, you're making us more of an African man is an African
Who is
man.
an
No,
African
that's a
man,
mindset.
Robert? Anyway, what has been tickling your mind
Well,
since
two
we
things
left
have tickled my
yesterday?
mind. One, the Kawempe North by-election, now the nominations were yesterday, where we saw Hajati Hanifa Karadi being nominated. We also saw Mohammed Ruwemba Ruswa being nominated, and Elias Narukola of National Unity Platform being nominated. And also, for FDC, we saw Muchibi Sadat, also known as Aganaga. Now, drama was when it came to the NUP candidate. The scenes I saw yesterday reminded me of the last elections we had, where we saw a candidate being dragged into the commonly known Toyota Hess, that is known as the drones, being picked from a border, you know, the firing of live bullets, the beating of people, because it is alleged that he was going to stage an illegal rally after his nomination. So police, in their wisdom of preventing crime and being proactive, they had to ensure that rally did not take place. That's why he was temporarily detained at Kawempe police station, then later released. Of course, those others that were arrested with him are still behind bars as we speak. But these weren't very good incidents. Of course, also his campaign manager, who is the deputy mayor of Kawempe, Serunjoji Serubiri, Charles Serubiri, also by then had been arrested. They're now using the term abducted, but we would say arrested. So there are not very good scenes that really happened, and I think it goes both to the security agencies if we could do better, but also as the political parties. But the thing is, all these play in the sight of the political party or the candidate. So this is something, because Ugandans are good with what we call a sympathy vote. So I don't think we should have a leveled ground, and we should respect the law. And the law enforcers, we should try to put some human face. But the story that caught my attention more, away from the politics of Kawempe, I don't know if you've seen this, Olive. Today we are having so many children of whites that have been abandoned here, of Chinese that have been abandoned here. These people come here, some of them, and get young girls, impregnate them, they conceive, they give birth, then they disappear. I was watching a story of Josephine Namiro, one of our local stations. Now, this is a young girl at the age of 15 who was working in a restaurant in Muyenga. A white, an American citizen, to say, called Jonathan David Small, falls in love with this young girl. She gives birth to the firstborn. He says, I don't want another child. The girl gives birth to a second child. Then the man abandons and flies back to the US. Now, this young lady, she's helpless. When you move around many communities, you see these children. My dad, I don't know, he was a white. They're even, first, their appearance, because they're slightly different from us, because of the skin color, the hair, and all that. But I think embassies, please come in. I don't think Jonathan David Small may be very hard to locate if the embassies, so that we end this. Go to Kabalagala, go to Machindi. You know, I don't know, this is, when, go to Nakauka, where now there's this construction.
Robert, I do understand, and actually when you mentioned her name, did you say she's 15?
Was 15.
Was 15.
When she met him.
Yes.
Yes.
So there was even child abuse here in the
Yes, she
in the
got
form
pregnant,
of,
she gave birth at 17.
defilement. that was defilement because she was underage. But that even being put aside, I think this is the moment when, as Ugandans and as parents and guardians, we must now talk to our children. Of course, it's exciting when the person who shows interest in them is someone of a different skin color, but looking at problems like this where you have a child, you don't know the origin of the father, it's really sad. But now is when we call in the embassies. Good thing she knows his names. So I believe if she gets the help she needs to locate the embassy and she gets someone to work on her case, they can identify and find Mr. David Smalls. Hopefully that can be done.
Hopefully indeed, but how can this device also, this vice be reduced? How can it be kicked out of Uganda?
Well, we have
most
of foreigners taking advantage of our young women.
There are many Chinese children.
Very many.
Many Chinese children who are being birthed by Ugandan mothers, Ugandan young girls, and many from the sites that Chinese companies are operating. What is being done? Well, it's prevalent in the community. It's common. Everyone is talking about it in their homes, but I don't hear much talk about it on larger platforms or any form of, workshops or talks or
Could
anything.
this be outstanding because the children are evidently of a different skin color? Because someone would say Ugandan men are also taking advantage of young women. But that's a story for another day.
Don't run away.
Let's look at the... Oh, you don't run away?
We don't
Robert,
run away.
That's
this is
a
their contracts
That
and
is
they
a
fly
story for another day. Let's have a look at the local news.
And I'll begin with President Museveni, who officially commissioned the Ankole Zonal Presidential Industrial Hub in Muko Village, Mbara District. The hub is part of the nationwide initiative with 19 similar hubs across Uganda. The hub initiative, which is spread across the country with 19 training centers, aims at equipping over 12,000 youth every year with vocational skills, promoting wealth creation, employment, and sustainable development in Uganda. In his address, President Museveni said he believes the hub is a transformative step in the region's economic empowerment. He praised the efforts of the beneficiaries, acknowledging their commitment to acquiring the necessary skills to thrive in today's economy. Currently on a performance assessment tour on wealth creation and parish development model in Ankole sub-region, the President emphasized the importance of taking guidance and advice to break the cycle of poverty. The nomination of candidates for Kawempe Division North by-election kicked off yesterday morning. 4 candidates were nominated on the first day. Meanwhile, the other 2 had errors on their documents and were sent back to rectify. According to the Electoral Commission spokesperson, Julius Muchunguzi, the exercise was generally peaceful, although some incidents were registered outside the nomination area. The first candidate to be nominated on the first day was an independent candidate, Hajat Hanifa Karadi, at about 10 a.m. She pledged to address the unemployment challenges and improve service delivery for people of Kawempe. In her nomination rally, Hajat said she has received warm welcome from the people of Kawempe. The second to be nominated was also an independent candidate, Muhammad Luwemba Ruswa, at 11 a.m. The third candidate nominated was that of the National Unity Platform, Erias Nalukola. His nomination was delayed after he claimed that the campaign agent carrying his documents was arrested by security. Nalukola was nominated in the presence of the Leader of Opposition in Parliament, Joel Senyonyi, and NUP Secretary General Davis Louis Rubongoya. They all condemned the violence against their NUP candidate. Other candidate nominated was the FDC Muchibi Sadat, commonly known as Khalifa Aganaga. Meanwhile, Nsereko Moses, who was to be nominated as an independent candidate, was turned off since some requirements were missing and Kayondo Fahad never turned up. The Parliamentary Public Accounts committee has grilled the judiciary over mismanagement of funds and accumulation of debts in the financial year 2023-2024. The judiciary accumulated arrears amounting to 13.371 billion shillings. The judiciary spent 790 million on payment of accrued arrears, yet the funds were not reflected in the institution's annual budget, raising suspicion. The meeting follows areas of concern in the Auditor General's report for the financial year 2023-2024. Judiciary submitted responses to the queries raised in the Auditor General's report at Parliament Public Accounts Committee Central, chaired by MP Muwanga Kivumbi. The judiciary is grappling with arrears amounting to 13.371 billion shillings and attributed to the high cost of motor vehicle repairs, maintenance and rent expenses for court premises. The Auditor General also noted that management accrued domestic arrears to the tune of 3.862 billion shillings in the financial year 2023-2024. The Auditor General further revealed that 790 million was spent on payment of arrears, yet the funds were not included in the institution's annual budget. The committee also noted an expenditure beyond a warrant of a tune of 0.790 billion on domestic arrears. The Permanent Secretary to the Judiciary, Pius Bigirimana, attributed the accumulation of arrears to the Ministry of Finance not realizing the funds accordingly. A review of bail deposit in the Auditor General's report revealed that there has been an accumulation of funds increasing by 50% from 16 billion in the financial year 2021-2022 to 24 billion in the financial year 2023-2024. And finally, from the local scene, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, has called on members of Parliament to lead by example in environmental conservation by planting trees. Among said that the persistent heat wave in Uganda is a result of climate change, emphasizing the urgent need for action to protect the environment. Uganda is currently grappling with a severe heat wave, with temperatures soaring above 40 degrees Celsius, particularly in northern region. Meteorologists have warned that the situation is likely to worsen in the coming month. Many Ugandans have been left struggling with extreme heat, which has also negatively impacted agricultural production. Parliament attributes the ongoing heat wave to the encroachment of wetlands, widespread deforestation, among others. The Speaker of Parliament stressed the importance of leadership in setting an example for environmental conservation, urging members of Parliament to take lead in planting trees. Meanwhile, the State Minister for Water and Environment, Beatrice Anyua, called for an increased funding in addressing the pressing challenges of climate change. Following the relocation of citizens from Bududa to Chiryandongo, MPs raised concern about the hardship the citizens are facing due to lack of access to basic services. Members of Parliament recommended that the government allocates a supplementary budget to provide cash assistance to these citizens, rather than forcing them to relocate to unfamiliar areas.
Now moving on, let's have a look at international news, where Volodymyr Zelensky is to meet President Trump in Washington to sign a minerals deal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will meet U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington on Friday to sign an agreement on sharing his country's mineral resources, this according to the United States President Donald Trump. Zelensky has described the bilateral deal as preliminary and said he wants further agreements which include U.S. security guarantees to deter renewed Russian aggression. But Trump said the U.S. would not provide guarantees beyond very much, saying the responsibility should instead fall on Europe. Trump also seemingly ruled out the prospect of Ukraine becoming a NATO member, one of Zelensky's long-held ambitions. Speaking at a meeting of his cabinet on Wednesday, Trump said the presence of American workers extracting rare earth metals on Ukrainian soil would provide automatic security for Ukraine. He said Kyiv should forget about joining NATO and repeated Russia's claims that the issue was one of the driving factors behind the war. The US president suggested a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia was not far off, telling reporters, and I quote, "We are going to make a deal with Russia and Ukraine to stop killing people." But Zelensky said without security guarantees, we won't have a ceasefire. Nothing will work, nothing. Now moving on, long-awaited celebrations and reunions in the occupied West Bank after Israel begins freeing the last batch of Palestinian detainees scheduled for release in the first phase of the ceasefire deal in Gaza. The release comes after Israel received the bodies of 4 captives from Hamas via the Red Cross. Israel says the identification process for the captives is now underway. Israel is set to free a total of 642 Palestinians in the coming hours, including 620 who were meant to be released last week. Some 445 of them are from Gaza, where families are continuing to wait anxiously for the return of their loved ones. Gaza's health ministry has confirmed 48,348 Palestinian deaths in Israel's war on Gaza, while 111,761 people have been wounded. The government media office updated its death toll to at least 61,709, saying thousands of Palestinians missing under the rubble are presumed dead. At least 1,139 people were killed in Israel during the October 7, 2023 Hamas-led attacks, and more than 200 were taken captive. And lastly, Rwanda has said international sanctions will reduce the likelihood of peace with M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of the Congo after the United Kingdom said it would pause some bilateral aid and impose other diplomatic sanctions on Kigali. The punitive measures announced today by the UK government in response to the conflict in the eastern DRC, where the UK has now clearly chosen a side, are regrettable, Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs said in a statement on Tuesday. The measures do nothing to help the Democratic Republic of Congo, nor do they contribute to achieving a sustainable political solution to the conflict in eastern DRC. The UK said the measures on Kigali would remain in force until there was significant progress in ending hostilities and a withdrawal of all Rwandan soldiers from Congolese territory, estimated by the United Nations to number several thousand. Rwanda denies providing arms and troops to M23 and says its forces are acting in self-defense against the Congolese army and groups hostile to Kigali. M23 has seized large swaths of the mineral-rich eastern DRC, including the main cities of Goma and Bukavu, in a conflict that has displaced about 500,000 people since January 2025. Which is last month. Now, with that, we come to the end of our international news. But Julie takes us through the newspapers.
Indeed, indeed. What's in the newspapers? We start off with New Vision, talking matters pension, how the new law will affect public servants. And Public Service Ministry proposes pay rise. Now, more of the story on page 3 of the New Vision, but there is a picture of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni there as President Museveni launches Ankole Skilling Hub there. Now, looking at what's in there, the president, accompanied by officials with bakery students during the commissioning of the Presidential Skilling Hub in Kashari, South Mbarara district yesterday, and more of that story on page 5 in the New Vision, but also looking at 4 nominated for Kawempe polls, and more of the story on page 6, and page 8 has Gabona's strong footprint in education. Why mpox affects mostly men, that is on page 4 of the New Vision. And looking at Uganda ready to host Chan tournament, full story is on page 2 of the New Vision. And of course there are tenders in there, and Kwani fighters in massive desertions, more of that on page 7. But going on to the Citizen has Samia reveals plan for industrial sugar production in Tanga. Now, President Samia Suluhu Hassan yesterday announced plans to establish a new industrial sugar factory in Tanga region as part of her government strategy to reduce reliance on imported sugar and save foreign currency. More of that story on page 2, but more of what she said in quotes: the Pangani area has witnessed rapid level development, and it will continue to transform as we roll out major sugarcane estate project along the Pangani River basin. But also polls body set to split and rename constituencies. More of that on page 3. And looking at matters business in the Citizen, Zanzibar outlines priorities in 2025-2026 budget framework. More of that on page 10. And support DMF Tanzania extends paid maternity leave. More of that story on page 8. But also looking at media in Tanzania steadily adopt AI amid concerns. And then compensation for JNIA expansion finally out 27 years after relocations. More of that story on page 2 of the Citizen. Going to Kenya, Daily Nation, Ruto's battlefronts, some of which are rebellion led by former DP Rigathi Gachagua, and President Ruto's critics have seized on the challenges facing his administration to launch in tirades as they strategize for 2027 polls, but also understanding the problems in the health sector, as well as university funding model, which is a headache, and then regional crisis in Sudan and DRC. Now, President William Ruto is entangled in many battles that could derail the implementation of his pet projects and put Kenya against its neighbors, even as he continues to face a political rebellion fueled by his impeached deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. Now, more of the story on page 4 to 5 of the Daily Nation. But we also look at a milestone where Kenya to sign trade facilitation deal with Somalia, and more of that on page 10 in the Daily Nation. But also looking at matters health on their own puzzle as state defends HIV/TB amid US budget freeze. And then that is more on page 2, but also looking at matters justice inside bid to remove top prosecutor Renson Ingonga from office. And that more is on page 8, but also looking at matters education in the Daily Nation. Uncertainty surrounds new varsity admissions. That's it with the Daily Nation, and that wraps up what we have from the press today.
Well, since today is Thursday, we throw back, and here we throw back to still music, and we have today Radio and Weasel Obudde. They simply say, don't play with time. Tozanyis Obudde. Enjoy. Been done, but we still have a lot of work cut out for us, especially now that as Uganda as a country, we are experiencing the cut of aid by one of the biggest funders of our health sector, and that is the United States of America. So we need to do a lot as Ugandans to ensure that we are safe and that we have zero infections in the country by the year 2030, which is just 5 years away. So what are you gonna do? Will you join the Kabaka's birthday run? Well, with me is Robert Shirabonyonyitono in Studio B and Julie F. Nantaba Mosisi on in Studio B, just on my left-hand side. And together, we'll get into the conversations of today. First of all, looking at the stories that have, inspired them, but or maybe stories that have had them thinking deeper. And we see what we can do today as Ugandans to make the world a better place. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You talk about the Kabaka Run and the push to end AIDS by 2030, and I'm impressed given the fact that aid has been cut off.
Yes.
This year the story is different.
Yes.
And because the Kabaka has influence in Uganda at large, and the Omulembo Mutebi, the younger generation, this year's story is going to be told differently. It's going to sink differently. I cannot wait. Actually,
I think because the kingdom has been doing this,
yes.
The Katikiro said their aim was to support this initiative for 3 years, but now they have been doing it. This is the 6th year. But now is more important than the years in the past, because now
yes.
we do not have the aid
Yep.
that we have been receiving. At least Donald Trump has not yet reviewed the executive order that pertains the aid.
Yes.
But what else have you been paying attention to?
Well, the fact that the heat in Uganda lately is as hot as a melting pot. But today's weather forecast actually states that it shall be 30 degrees highest Celsius, which is at about 5 a.m., which I think is fair, because the past few days have been as high as 36 degrees Celsius, and it's been extremely hot, causing many Ugandans to be pretty much off the streets as early as 11 a.m. and most streets looking as clear as Sundays.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hot, and the best we can do right now to take care of ourselves is to drink a lot, hydrate more, and just hang in there, because yesterday we also did get a report that at least by March there will be some rains, and the initial rains in March will actually be a bit heavier, causing a bit of distraction there. But good morning to you, viewer. Thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to start the day with you. Now, what made stories for me in the last 24 hours was the return of Connie's family, his wife and 3 of his children, back to Uganda. His former wife, in fact, Judith Achan, who's 28 years old, and 2 of his biological children, plus 1 child whom he adopted in 2005 after his parents passed on. And the 4 escaped from an LRA camp in Central African Republic and brought back to Uganda. The returnees will be rehabilitated in Gulu City, and by May they will be connected back to the community. My question though is, as they're being rehabilitated, is there anyone preparing the community to which they are going back?
Well, the community is being asked to be supportive and to understand that some of these people were taken, against their wish.
Their will, yeah.
And then for the children, we don't choose our parents.
Yes.
Yes. So if they seek rehabilitation, we should give them the support that they need. But I like that they don't just go into the community. They're first enrolled into a camp,
yes.
where those people that have come back are usually enrolled. And then this NGO teaches them and equips them with life skills before they are integrated into the community.
And for me, in regards to the community, it's one thing telling the community that, forgive them, they're coming back, but it's another to actually understand the experience of the community in nitty-gritty. So
yes.
I hope there is a program of some sort speaking to the community day in, day out, while they're being rehabilitated on this end, preparing the community on the other end, day in, day out, talking to them, talking about forgiveness, talking about supporting them, talking about the fact that they were young. It was against their will and their wish, all of that.
GN Up, when we talk together, we are unstoppable.
International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th March. It is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination play by women. On Saturday, 8th March, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. The national celebrations will be held in Changwanzi district under the theme Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest. Join us for the live broadcast to witness outstanding women receive medals in recognition of their achievements and contributions to the country. Happy Women's Day.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, I have.
Well, good morning, and you are once again welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Welcome aboard, and thank you so much for being a part of the conversation that we are going to hold right about now. Now, the conversation is surrounding sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease, and this disease is prevalent. It's a prevalent genetic disorder in Uganda, affecting numerous individuals and families. It's reported that over 20,000 babies are born with sickle cell disease, and most of these do not live to see their 5th birthday. So that brings us to the conversation. Now, I'm sure you have seen, some of you have seen news reports indicating that government is proposing mandatory testing for sickle cell disease before couples get married. Some partners in the sickle cell fight are behind this move, but of course conversations with different experts in the field also say that you cannot force people on what to do, but you can guide them, you can tell them the effects of sickle cell, especially on children and on families. So welcome aboard. Let's have this conversation. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I will be speaking to two gentlemen. One is Don Magezi, who is a sickle cell warrior and advocate. He will tell us what that means exactly, and he's from Rare Mark Foundation. Now, the other person I will be speaking to is Dr. Dan Odu, and he's a doctor, and he's from Catherine Noble Foundation. Catherine Field Initiative. Yes, Catherine Field Sickle Cell Support Initiative. Together, let's get into this conversation. Good morning, Dr. Dan.
Good morning, my sister. How are you?
I'm okay. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And good morning, Don Magezi.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, now, Don, I will start with you. And for you, the biggest issue here we are looking at is fighting stigma when it comes to sicklers or people that are living with sickle cell disease. Tell us more about how, first of all, tell us more about why you think it is incumbent upon all of us to fight stigma that is associated with sickle cell disease.
I think it's really important, starting from the term itself. So we don't call ourselves sicklers, we call ourselves warriors. We find the term sicklers very demeaning, and it reduces someone to just their condition. It doesn't encompass all who they are in totality. And so starting from there, we want to change the narrative around what it is being a warrior. And by doing that, we can help change the picture, how we're viewed, how we're seen. The stigma stems from a lot of miseducation. For example, there's I've heard a lot that it's caused by witchcraft, it's caused by curses. It has a really strong social stigma, and I've been bullied personally because of having sickle cell. I've had friends who've been bullied by it, just because of that simple misunderstanding about the disease.
Okay. And studies indicate that in some regions there are misconceptions and labels when it comes to people that are living with sickle cell disease. And then the misinformation he's talking about, apparently some people attribute someone's having sickle cell to things like witchcraft, to being cursed, and so much more. Before I delve deeper into the conversation on stigma with Dawn, I would like to first of all have a conversation with Dr. Dan. Dr. Dan, I know that Catherine Phil, yes, is in the thick of things when it comes to spreading awareness on sickle cell disease. Please tell us more about the initiatives and why it's important for us to have information regarding sickle cell disease, but also take us through let's get into the meat of the disease itself. How does one become a sickler, or what leads to some children having sickle cell and others not?
Thank you so much. At Catherine Field Sickle Cell Support Initiative, we are very passionate about combating sickle cell disease, well aware that sickle cell is a genetical disorder. It's a #1 blood disorder in this country, or maybe world over, that when a father and a mother are both carriers, they end up giving birth to a warrior. And history tells us quite clear that sickle cell came in as a result of trying to combat malaria some years back. So there has been a genetical mutation way back, and this has affected more or less the blood structure of the red blood cells. For any normal red blood cells, it is kind of like a round shape, but a sickled cell, it's like a sickle, curved a bit, and that makes it quite sticky once it is traveling on the veins, and that causes lots of pain and inflammation on the veins. You have heard of vaso-occlusive pain, acute chest syndrome, and so on and so forth. If we recall, when we were growing up, if you tied your index finger with a rubber band, of course that means that blood is not flowing up, neither is it coming back down, and it also swells off. And with lots of pain, you cannot tie your index finger with a rubber band for close to 30 minutes. It's impossible. So that's more or less the same pain that our warriors do go through. And as an initiative, together with quite a number of partners like Raremark, we have decided to intensify on giving people the rightful information, because we have discovered that very few people know more about sickle cell. If you moved around town here and then you do like a random check, and you're like, okay, do you know about sickle cell? Somebody will tell you this one, which is related to witchcraft and so on. And in, for example, if you went to Aleptong district, like in every 4 persons, you will find that one has a sickle cell trait. Okay, and in Uganda here, about 13.3 people of the population do carry the sickle cell traits. And it would only be imperative if, for example, we have had a number of campaigns across the country, especially when we were combating HIV. If we had the same approach, the same information trickling down to the last person. There is this campaign that worked quite well, Obulamu.
I remember it.
Yes. Almost everybody could just, there is that intro of the Obulamu campaign. Even if you are in the village and you had you had that intro, you would say that, oh, Obulamu, Obulamu. So we are also trying to come up with such approach, so that everybody, or like even the last person down there, whether you have gone to school or you have not gone to school, you should be in position to know about sickle cell. But also on the other side, the government has also come up with quite a good approach. There is, they have established about 10 regional centers of excellence across the country. And that is helping a lot in also giving out information to the public, sickle cell care and management, where you probably go and get access to hydroxyurea, the life-changing medication for our warriors. And different campaigns, different organizations have basically come in and try to intensify on the awareness, but also to amplify the voices of our warriors across the country.
Okay. Now, Dr. Dan, there is something I saw in the news last week that quite interested me, and it sent me down a rabbit hole where I actually found that back in 2018, the same proposal was tabled, and this was the mandatory testing of sickle cell couples being tested for sickle cell disease before they get married. I understand that some churches will not wed some couples minus a doctor's report indicating that they are not carriers. I am curious to know what the sickle cell different sickle cell foundations or voices of sickle cell have when it comes to this proposal.
Well, I'll say something, then my brother from Realmark will also expound more. To us as CSOs, we feel that the mandatory testing is something which will not only happen to probably people who are having traits, but just like we embraced the issues of HIV.
Yes.
If you went to any facility right now and you're probably pregnant, you'll be subjected to an HIV test with your partner. So this will just be like probably a walkover, but then there are also some policies or some legislation that will have to be done on it as well, because it is not just going to be a walkover. But we have welcomed this, and to me, I think it will be one more other way of making sure that Ugandans know their sickle cell status. For example, the warriors are also very normal people. These are normal people. They do anything just like we also do. So this is not like a form of stigma, but probably I feel the government is trying to have a mark somewhere that by probably 20-something, the prevalence of sickle cell is reduced in the country. But also, remember, if you have sickle cell or families that have warriors home, it is not easy to also manage. And recently, we have termed it as another source of poverty, because honestly, you will not have all these monies year in, year out. You're running to the hospital, you're running to buy this, blood transfusion, here and there. So if the legislation surrounding the mandatory testing of sickle cell is clearly brought up, for us, we shall embrace it and we shall encourage our people. Even churches, there are churches who are doing that, like before they wed you. Premarital testing is quite key. Now, if you encourage me to test for HIV before you unite us, what about sickle cell? To us, that is a plus.
Okay.
Just like any other disease. Or maybe my brother here would also say something.
Yes, and he will in a bit. But
Okay.
if you're just joining the conversation, government is proposing a law mandating sickle cell testing for all intending couples. And the government is drawing lessons from countries like Egypt, which have successfully reduced sickle cell disease prevalence through similar measures. What's your say regarding that? You can share your views through WhatsApp number 0709602592. It is the same number on your screen. Tell us, is this invasive or this is the way to go for us to curb the rate of sickle cell disease in the country? I mean, if you look at the statistics, 20,000 babies born with sickle cell disease, and many of them not living up to their 5th birthday. That's quite a high number. And Dr. Dan here just mentioned that it is now becoming a source or a contributor to the high rate of poverty in some communities because it's highly expensive to treat. Now, I'm speaking to Dr. Dan Odu from Catherine Field Sickle Cell
Support Initiative,
and also Don Magezi, who is from Remark Foundation, and he's a sickle cell warrior and advocate. They don't want to be called sicklers because it is demeaning and it reduces them to their condition of having sickle cell.
Correct.
Now, Don, coming back to you, the mandatory testing. You are a person living with sickle cell disease, and you are the first point of contact when we talk about this. You have expressed the pain, the difficulties, the inconvenience of the disease. And if, let's say, you had a chance, let us hypothetically create a situation where your parents had tested. Would you have been a happier child?
Well, you never
maybe
know
you
what
would have been going to
maybe I wouldn't be here.
It is hypothetical, but yes.
But yes, without the condition, I think my life would have been drastically different. I've spent days, hours, years in and out of hospitals. My parents have had to sacrifice their careers, my mom especially. So yes, definitely I would have a very, very different life. And I do champion that mandatory proposal, the bill that they're proposing. I think it'll change a lot of people's lives. It'll reduce the rate, the prevalence of sickle cell in the country. Our population between 18 and 25, more than 50% is younger than 25, I believe. So that means if it's not addressed, the prevalence is only going to increase. So I think this is a really good step forward.
Okay. Wow, that's quite, it's actually, I don't know, am I allowed to say it's a bit sad? Because I have I've come into contact with some promising young people that were sicklers, and one death that touched my heart was this young man that was doing so well, senior 6 vacation, and then I realized we were not seeing him anymore, only for some other client to come in and tell us, oh, by the way, your friend is no more. And I think this is an experience many families go through, where you have fought through thick and thin, and suddenly your child is no more. Dr. Dan, please help our viewers understand the vicarious results in having a child who is a sickler.
Well, first of all, I will commence by saying that if you have a child who is a warrior, this child is very normal, apart from being a sickle cell warrior. This child needs to be loved, just like any other person that we love at home. This child needs emotional support. This child needs to be needs to go to school. We have a number of them who go to school. This child needs hospital care, just like any other person needs. Nutrition is very key to this child. Okay. Recently, we have been having lots of issues to do with mental health for our warriors or our children who are home there, who are warriors. But some parents have not tried to see this in a very
positive,
clear angle.
Okay.
These children have access to lots of information. Imagine a child coming to tell you that, Daddy, Mommy, is it true I'm going to die? You know? you, the father, the mother, you'll also get stressed. Seeing your child go through such a pain.
And fear.
And fear. If you went to the sickle cell ward in Mulago and you interact with the caregivers, with the warriors themselves, you wouldn't want to go into any relationship without screening for sickle cell. People only mind about HIV. These children are very bright children, by the way. Don is here. Don is quite a game. If you if you sat down and you're discussing few things, man, it will really come up quite handy for you. In all their classes, these are just like normal people.
Because they are normal.
Yes.
They just live with
they
the
are
different...
normal. They just live with that disorder.
Yes.
You know, and they are quite creative. I mentioned here and said that sickle cell has caused a lot of impediment into economic growth of families. Currently, we have formed up different groups of patient groups where they go and learn. Like, for example, if you have a warrior, we cluster you up into some group of 15 or 12, where probably every month you sit and share your experiences. That, for example, my child was presenting with this and this and this, but this is how I managed to combat this and that. But ideally, in the in the real sense, there is still need for a lot of awareness and sensitization, especially to even some parents. I went to a certain home, the warrior was being tied in the house.
Tied in the house?
Yes.
Why? Because it was
It was being associated to witchcraft.
Oh.
The warrior was being tied in the house,
So
not to come out.
Anyway, Dr. Dan, your last remark.
Well, my last remark, to all the caregivers, to all the warriors and the CSOs and the government outside there, we thank the government so much for coming up with all the 10 regional centers of excellence across the country, our caregivers, our warriors themselves. But there is still some gap left, which I feel we need to close it up, and this is still awareness. We need to have a deliberate campaign on sickle cell across the country, and we thank media houses like UBC for also giving us this opportunity to share with the public. And if you know of any sickle cell warrior outside there at this point in time, get them closer and hug them and tell them that you love them. Thank you.
Okay. Bruce, I would like to hear your last remarks, especially when it comes to fighting stigma.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, Dawn.
No problem. When it comes to fighting stigma, I think well, my message would be from a warrior to other warriors and from a warrior to caregivers, because they can help fight the stigma too. Never give up the fight, advocate for yourself, because a lot of warriors are very silent, very sheltered. I think we need to get out there, get into open spaces, speak more about the condition, about the disease, and make as much noise as we can, because we are being heard clearly, and efforts are being made to address the current situation. So my message is just don't give up. Don't give up the fight, warriors. Don't give up the fight, caregivers. We're making progress. We are battling stigma and changing our title from sicklers to warriors.
To warriors. Thank you so much, Don Magezi. Now, the reason I called you, Bruce, was a message from Bruce Nwagaba, who says, "Good morning, UBC. I'm Bruce from Entebbe. If the couples are to be checked upon sickle cell for sickle cell before marriage, then AIDS should be done the same." I think this is already happening.
Yes.
And then the other comment is from Okello Samuel, who says, "Good morning, doctor and presenter. I'm Okello Care from Kalongo Town Council in Agago District. I think the mandatory testing for sickle cell has both the pros and the cons, and he says it will help the partners to terminate the relationship in the name of avoiding future family burden, which is good for the family and very bad for the sickler because partners will always reject the relationship. And lastly, P says it's a good move to pass out this law because it's so painful to produce a child only to lose the child after a short time. Thank you so much for your views. The conversation continues. The hashtag is UBCGMU. I've been speaking to Dr. Dan Odu from the Catherine Phil Sickle Cell Support Initiative, and to Don Magezi, who is from Reamac Foundation and is also a sickle cell warrior and advocate. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
It's a chill morning. I woke up happier and more excited. My name is Zakia Lucky, and thank you for being a part of us on the GMU Tourism Express. In continuity to our previous episode, today we'll be discussing flavors of Ugandan foods. And I'm happy that I'll be talking about one of those foods that made me leave Kabale straight to Kampala just to taste this particular food, luwombo. I've had a chance to go through the experience on how it has been prepared, and it's just exciting, artistic, and I can't wait to dive into getting to know what are the stories behind this preparation, because I had never seen anything like that. So stick with us and let's get to learn this together. With me again is Chef Sharif, who happened to prepare luwombo for us, and he'll be telling us all the stories and the art behind this particular food. But let him introduce himself to you guys again, and then we dive into that.
Sharif Abakari Wangwo, a chef at Food Plats.
Yes, so Chef Sharif, from my experience being a part of the preparation of luwombo, I realized this takes a lot of time. Maybe that could be the reason as to why the younger people don't prefer local foods or having to wait forever. But Chef, what could your experience be like?
It's true. Local food, let's say, about what is here on table.
Yes.
Loretagamo akadde. Kati omuntu yenna nga talina budde. Nga talina bugumiikiriza. Aba alemereddwa okufuna ekirungi ekirulimu. Era aba agenda kusuwa bingi.
So there are people like me who love these foods, and I highly believe by the time you leave your home or you have in mind what you want to eat, you're ready to wait and experience this particularly. But why local foods? Why do you think the older people prefer local foods?
As I told you earlier, abamu, the biggest number, balina ebirwadde bibayita ebirwadde by'abakulu okugeza nga sukaali, pressure n'ebirala ebigenderako nga tebabakkiriza kulya fats oba kibatwalise butto okutwalizaamu. So when it comes to this local food, tetukozesa butto. Ne bw'aba nga tuteeseemu aba alesa mutono nnyo ddala than okubanga tubadde side ya fast foods. Because zo mostly zitambulira ku butto mungi. Eno n'oba nga oteeseemu kaba katono nnyo ddala.
Kati nga tuvudde ku abo abatali ku bya butto, because I believe there are also people from my age mates that would like local foods, just like myself, and I have not, I don't have those diseases. But I would like to hear from you before I give you my reasons as to why I prefer local foods. The people that are younger, why do you think they would prefer local foods that are probably not yet sick or having health issues?
Abamu tebafuna ku chance to have it at their homes.
Yes.
Because mulimu amaka nga bo basically batambulira ku light foods. Ojja sanga fridge erimu enkoko naye enkoko erimu KFC yasigaddewo. Ne gye baguze awaka bakoze ya soup, bakoze deep fry, nga okulya ku mmere eri boil oba envanga za boil, it's very rare. N'abamu nga tebamanyi kubifumba. Nga they only access them nga agenze outside home.
When you say nga tebamanyi kufumba, do you give them that experience? Probably engeri gye mugenda obasavingamu, engeri gye mugenda ayinza obutatuukayo in the kitchen to see how it is being prepared. Naye engeri gy'avudde ewaka to experience a new food, like you said nti ewaka aba takiraba. Do you add on to that experience for them?
When a customer comes, let's say of this luwombo, n'abuuza like abaana bali mu service, what's in that luwombo? Balufumbye batya? At times they call me, ne nvaayo, ne munyola. Abamu ku baana ba service still, they know what is done there. They give the real information about it. Onaavaawo ng'ategedde. Ku ebiseera ebisinga naawe bw'oze, let's say nga twadde nange mu kiyungu, ojja kumubuuza walukoze otya okusinziira ku nfaana yaalwo. Of course mba nja kuvaayo nkugambye nakoze wenne nti kubuulire.
So nga tuvudde ku luwombo, what are those other local foods or Ugandan foods that they usually like to explore or order for?
Tulinawo steamed plantain. Tulinawo bo.
Bo, okay.
Ishabwe. Steamed potato. Steamed cassava. N'akawunga ako akazzeeko. Walinako kalungi. Naye ebiseera ebisinga ewaka mwe mugoya n'oliirawo. Naye ate bw'okazzaako ke kasinga obulungi.
What do you mean bw'okazzaako?
Like bw'omala okumingolinga n'oteeka mu ndagala zo n'osaanika n'otuza ku ntamu n'oboilinga. Like the way you've steamed this.
Okay. Ekitegeeza you prepare it differently from home? From how?
Some homes do it, they will do it. Other homes babuuza lwaki ozzaako akawunga. Bamanyi nti emmere nnyangu, rice, portion nti enjala eba ekuluma, enva olujja, olumala okugoya ng'oteeka ali nga bajjula nga balya. So ffe tukazzaako.
Okay. So Uganda has very many foods, very many local foods. So do you prepare all the foods or it's according to what a client wants?
No, according to our menu, I would say 80% we prepare it from here. Like steamed yams, steamed vegetable, steamed cassava, steamed potato, steamed plantain, luwombo, both beef and chicken. That's all.
But you go all out to explore all the Ugandan foods?
Yeah, because we have Bo, and Bo is actually Bo is well known for those people from, are they called the Northerners?
Yes, northern Uganda.
Yeah, for us we do it here. Then bring Ishawe from west to central. And now we prepare it here. Plus Kalo.
Plus Kalo. And of course Luombo from Buganda. But you've not mentioned Karamoja, those parts when we go back to also Renzori, because your clients are tourists from all over the country. But also, are these usual? Do you have international tourists that come looking for Ugandan food?
Yes, we do have them.
Okay.
They do come, ask for Wombo, call you, tell me what's this? Have prepared it? Should I come and see what you're doing? And so others come ask for their particular meals like Mexican foods, Italian dishes. We'll also do them.
So you can see what's exciting about Ugandan foods is we're also getting international tourists that come and ask about these foods. I do not know if they've seen them on social media or a friend has recommended or they found them on the menu. But this is to continue to ask. When you get to experience a Ugandan food, please put it up there because we have a variety. You can see we have a number of cultures here, and all of these are creating different Ugandan foods. And again, I'm emphasizing, let's stop addressing these as local foods, but Ugandan foods. So to our dear parents, let's make it a point to introduce these foods to our children. Let's also introduce them to everyone else because we get visitors at home. And to everyone else out there, you could be an influencer. And by the way, everyone is a tourist. Let's continue highlighting these foods. Let's be proud and rich in our foods and put them out there. As I enjoy my Luombo, and don't forget to engage and let us know what you think about or what local food or Ugandan food you would like us to talk about. And remember, we are here from Monday to Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Thank you.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome back from GMU Tourism Express. Thank you, Lucky Zakia, for that story on culinary tourism. And it really indeed exposes us to embrace our local foods more and more. And thank God for the country that Uganda is, with everything natural from the foods that we eat. But looking into matters wildlife, well, the Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Tom Butime, has emphasized the urgent need to invest in nature and increase wildlife financing to support human livelihoods that depend on natural resources. Butime noted that human activities remain the leading cause of environmental degradation and biodiversity loss, calling for immediate intervention. The Wildlife Conservation Convention, organized ahead of the World Wildlife Day, aims to discuss challenges affecting wildlife conservation efforts and forge ways out. The Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Tom Butime, who officiated this event, emphasized the need for wildlife financing to support families living around protected areas. The European Union Ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency John Sadek, has reaffirmed the EU's commitment to supporting key stakeholders in promoting ecotourism. During the event, a strategic action plan for large carnivore conservation was launched. The country director of the World Wide Fund for Nature Uganda, Ivan Tumuhimbise, revealed that the plan aims to provide alternative community enterprises to curb illegal wildlife trade. The Executive Director, Uganda Wildlife Authority, Dr. James Musinguzi, acknowledged the timelessness of the plan, citing alarming levels of carnivore depletion across the country. The convention was held under the theme Wildlife Conservation Finance, Investing in People and Planet. Now, looking at matters fish. A section of fishmongers in Arua City main market dealing in fish from South Sudan have protested plans to shift them to a new location of Club Market about 1 kilometer from the city center. These are fishmongers who sell fish outside the main market on grounds that the stalls in the market are too small to accommodate their imported fish. Women and men dealing in fish from South Sudan have protested plans to relocate them to the new market, and they claim that the newly suggested area of Club Market is unsafe for them because it inhibits many thieves. They say stalls in the main market are too small for people who sell fish as a wholesale, and this is a reason they decided to be outside so that those in retail can buy and sell inside the market. Now, according to David Chasangu, the Arua City Town Clerk, there has been a suggestion of shifting these fishmongers to a new location based on technology grounds, a matter that has not been discussed by the council yet. He says Arua City is realizing improvements in revenue collections in which fishmongers contribute a lot. Deputy Resident City Commissioner of Arua City, Swadik Agupale, calls for calm amongst the fishmongers as their protest has been based on allegations. Now, talking matters oil, police have arrested a group of student activists protesting against the East African crude oil pipeline EACOP project at the European Union offices in Kampala. Police accuse these for not using stipulated guidelines, streamlining protests, and have become a public nuisance. The protests against the construction of the East African crude oil pipeline based on the increased complaints from the project affected persons. Students under the Youth for Climate and Human Rights Africa claim that climate assessment procedures were neglected at the start of the project and agitate for the contract review. These want European Union member states, particularly France, to intervene. These youth intend to approach main funders of the project to rethink the terms, if possible, halt bankrolling the project. Now, police dispersed these protesters who had gathered at the entrance of the European Union office in Kampala for not following public assembly guidelines. Despite resistance against the EACOP project from different activists based on environment and humanitarian grounds, the EACOP project is ongoing. Now, time to look at what the exchange rates look like. As of 26th February 2026, the US dollar opened at 3,675.18 buying and sold at 3,685.18. And by midday, it was at 3,670.45 and sold at 3,689.45 and closed in at 3,671.05 buying and sold at 3,681.05. Looking at the Great Britain pound, 4,640.94 buying and sold at 4,653.58. The euro was buying at 3,853.86 and sold at 3,864.36. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.36 and selling at 28.44, and the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.40 and selling at 1.40, and the South African rand buying at 199.13 and selling at 199.67. Now it's 5 minutes on to 8 a.m. Good morning, Uganda. My name is Julie F. Nantaba Musisi.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years.
Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
was brought to you by. You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th March. It is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination play by women. On Saturday, 8th March, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. The national celebrations will be held in Changwanzi district under the theme Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest. Join us for the live broadcast to witness outstanding women receive medals in recognition of their achievements and contributions to the country. Happy Women's Day.
We're going to be talking about farming, but it's not me that's going to do that.
My name is Hava K. Luanga.
My name is Larry Charles K.
Let's go!
Mixed farm is a type of farming that involves growing crops and raising livestock. This is the spice garden and for the vegetables.
My first favorite spice has to be black pepper.
What's black pepper in Uganda?
Kamulali or mudagavu.
What? We're going to talk about the sechunga. We're going to see how big it is, as big as Larry's head. And then we're going to talk about the mangada. So we're going to get there. We have still so many farms to visit. And I would like to hear from you. This is the Little Farmer Show, and we are bringing coolness back to farming. See you!
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko. Yo. What you check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a Sickle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Coming soon on UBC.
Are you ready to take your fitness journey to the next level? Join the Sweat Squad by Sion. Coming soon to UBC TV. With expert guidance, cutting-edge workouts, and a supportive community. You'll be unstoppable.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is time for our agenda segment. It's 2 minutes past 8 o'clock this morning. Welcome. Good morning. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and you are watching Good Morning Uganda here on Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. We are coming to you live from the broadcast house here at Nile Avenue. And if you're just joining us, you are in for a very interesting and enlightening conversation. Now, nurses and midwives are the cornerstone of Uganda's healthcare system, and these comprise of approximately 72% of the public healthcare workforce. They are usually the first point of contact for patients and even caregivers. When you visit any hospital or healthcare institute, you will find that the very first people you will be talking to will be the nurses. So this means they play a very pivotal role in delivering essential healthcare services to Ugandan patients. And despite their significant contributions, the nursing and midwifery professions in Uganda face numerous challenges, and these include staffing shortages, poor pay, delayed salaries, and so much more. So today we are looking at addressing these issues, and because addressing these issues is a very crucial point for us to achieve health coverage and improving health outcomes in the country, but also worldwide. But today we will focus on Uganda nationwide. So we will be looking at the role of nurses, but today we are looking at also a different type of nurses. Yes, there are different types of nurses, and we will be looking at those. So our conversation today revolves around the contribution of nurses and midwives to the health sector, and I will be having this conversation with Professor Edward Kumakech, who is the President-elect, Association of Graduate Nurses and Midwives of Uganda. That is the other type of nurses that I was talking about, the graduate nurses. So who are they? Who are graduate nurses? Because to a patient, all they see is a nurse. We will know and learn more regarding the same, and also look at the association's goals, their visions, their objectives, and what sets them apart from other nurses. So join us through this conversation. If you have any questions, the WhatsApp number is 0709602592. So let's get into the conversation. But first, good morning and you're welcome.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Professor Kumakech, first of all, help us understand, one, you are the president-elect. Let's start there.
Yes, I'm Professor Edward Kumakech. I'm from Lira University. Just yesterday, I was elected as the president of the Association of Graduate Nurses and Midwives of Uganda. And this is an association for a special cadre of nurses and midwives that hold a degree bachelor level, at master's level, and even at PhD level.
Wow.
So these are special, highly skilled nurses. Forget about the traditional nurses we talk about, certificate, diploma. These are people who joined the university with 2 principal passes, went through 4-year training, learned a lot of medical science and caring, behavioral sciences, psychology, and have hands-on skills to take care of patients. And the training of these cadre of nurses started in 1995 at Makerere University. It was kind of a pilot to see whether it is important to train nurses at a degree level. And since then, over 22 universities in Uganda are now training nurses at degree, master's, or even PhD level. And this training produces about 500 to 600 graduates per year. So since the training started in 1995, by now we have over 5,000 graduate nurses and midwives in Uganda. And we feel this is a cadre that can improve the quality of healthcare, satisfaction with healthcare, and also patient outcome, maybe reducing deaths, reducing infections, and people curing from disease and going back where they are happy. Yeah.
Okay, well, now we have a clear understanding of graduate nurses. These are highly qualified, highly educated nurses. This cadre of nurses is educated at degree level, at master's level, and some of them are PhD holders. Like the professor here, you are a PhD.
Yes,
are you a PhD?
Yes. I was among the first lot of students admitted from senior 6 at Makerere University. And we went through a 4-year training. We joined the university with very good grades, and we went through the 4-year training. And after the 4-year training, I went and did masters in nursing, focusing on medical nursing from Mbarara University of Science and Technology. And after the master training, I went again and did another master's in public health at a university in Sweden called Lund University. Thereafter, I went for PhD in medical nursing again to another university in Sweden called Örebro University. I even did postdoctoral studies in University of Washington.
Wow.
Yes.
This is very, very interesting. But now, Professor, if I may, apart from your high level of education,
Yes.
I believe that already puts you in a different category when it comes to your job.
Yes.
What else sets you apart from the traditional nurses that we're used to?
Thank you for that question. When we talk of graduate nurses trained at bachelor's degree, master's, and PhD, what makes them so unique is the fact that their training is extensive. There's a lot of medical science that they learn. And if you go to Makerere University, these are nurses who sit in the same class with the doctors. They attend the same courses from year 1 up to year 2. And then it is from year 3 and year 4, that's where they separate to go and practice their skills. So in terms of understanding diseases, in terms of understanding causes of illnesses, in terms of understanding what education to give to patients, these are highly knowledgeable nurses. They are a cadre that will start caring for the patient even before the doctor comes. They know what to do. They can do quick assessment. They can see quickly. There are things that I can do even when the doctor is not there. I can educate this patient. I can give basic care. If the patient is in an emergency situation, they can even start caring and stopping the advancement of that disease condition before the doctor arrives.
Okay.
So they are very helpful, and it's a cadre that we are promoting in Uganda. And I want to say Uganda is one of those countries that have this kind of training. I had an opportunity of working with Japanese nurses when I was in Mbarara University as a lecturer. When they attended the lessons that we give to these graduate nurses, they said, no, this education is for doctors. And then we said, but in Uganda, we have shortage of doctors. If you go to the lower level health facilities in the community, the ones we call Health Center 2, Health Center 3s, you may not find doctors at all.
But you'll find nurses.
You will find the nurses and midwives there.
Yes.
So we need to empower them with knowledge of how to arrest advancement of an illness, how to give first aid, how to give them first-line treatment to save the life of this patient before referring them to a higher level facility where the doctor is. And that's why we train them very highly with more knowledge and skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at some of the challenges in nursing and midwifery. What are the primary challenges in your perspective? Because as a professor, but also part of the association and a trained graduate nurse yourself, I believe you have noticed a lot of challenges. So in your perspective, what are the primary challenges that are faced by nurses and midwives in Uganda today, particularly concerning staffing levels and the implementation of relevant policies and guidelines?
Thank you for that question. I would like to start by saying that nurses and midwives in Uganda are very lucky because the Ministry of Health and the government is very supportive of the nurses. By introducing this higher level training, is already indication that they want nurses to advance in the education and practice. So initially, when it was only Makerere University that was producing the nurses, the numbers were very few. So the few that would come out are quickly absorbed. They are usually employed by these research organizations like Joint Clinical Research Center, Uganda Virus Research Institute, and Walter Reed, Makerere School of Public Health. They were taken up quickly. But now when more universities picked up the training, over 22 are training them. This is where now the number became too many. And these universities are churning out close to 600 graduates per year. And in response, the Ministry of Health developed the scheme of service. And the scheme of service indicates that they are going to employ these graduate nurses at a Health Center 3, at least one of them. And then at a Health Center 4, which is at a sub-county level, they would employ at least 4 to 5. And then at a general hospital at a district headquarter level, they would employ about 16. However, the implementation of this scheme of service has been very slow. And as such, many of the graduates are not employed. And we feel by not employing them, we are losing these highly trained nurses. The country is losing them, maybe through migration to other countries, but also the patients are missing out. The patients who could benefit from their special skills, high knowledge, are missing out. The quality of nursing has not improved across the country. And yet this is the cadre that can provide supervisory role over the certificate nurses, the diploma nurses. They can even mentor, they can coach, and they would really help in improving the quality of nursing care, reducing infections, improving satisfaction of patients. But the delay in the implementation of the scheme of service has made our country missing out on these good kind of nurses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm speaking to Professor Edward Kumakech, who is the president-elect at the Association of Graduate Nurses and Midwives of Uganda. He was voted in just yesterday. That's why we are calling him the president-elect. He has not yet been sworn in, but he's the man taking on the mantle to speak for and represent the needs, the requirements, and also the goals and objectives of the graduate nurses and midwives in Uganda. So if you have any questions for Professor Kumakech here, please reach out to us on WhatsApp number 0709-602-592 and help us understand some of the issues that you have experienced if you're a graduate nurse, but also if you have come in contact with one, or if you're curious about anything in that line, we will be able to share, and he will be in position to answer your questions. Now, Professor, there is the issue of staffing shortages that we have already talked about, but let's again go deeper into that. The current nurse to patient ratio is 1 to 11,000, which is significantly below the recommended, which is 1 to 1,000 ratio. So looking at this, what strategies are being considered, one, to address the critical shortage of nursing and midwifery professionals?
Thank you for that question. It is true, there is very high patient to nurse ratio. Meaning the patients are many, the nurses are very few.
Very few, yes.
I'm sure many of you have gone to wards where you find there are 30, even 40, patients, even more patients, and being attended to one nurse moving from bed to bed to administer medications. From our training, that is not the standard nursing practice. The standard nursing practice is supposed to be individualized care. Each patient has their own care plan, and there's a nurse attending to maybe 2 or 3 patients only. Not just making a walk around, giving the medicine to the patient with no clear instruction on how to swallow it, and then telling the patient, you go and bring a sample of urine, and he has not even been told how exactly to get this sample. So there is a very big problem of few nurses and many patients. So in terms of addressing these challenges, the education sector is doing very well. Many universities have come up. Over 20 are training degree nurses and midwives. And we are churning out over 600 graduates per year. So in terms of the supply, it is very good. But the problem is now the employing body, the Ministry of Health and the Public Service, to make sure these nurses get down to the health facility where the patients need them. You find many of these graduate nurses, if are not taken up by the research organizations, they are actually at home doing nothing. The government has spent a lot training some of these on government scholarship. Actually, Bachelor of Science in Nursing and Bachelor of Science in Midwifery, even Masters, is government sponsored. There is a scholarship for people to get that. And many of these beneficiaries get into this program when they have scored 13 points, 14, very good scores.
So how come they're not being taken on? Why are we waiting for them to be hired by, let's say, non-government organizations, the research organizations that you mentioned? Why isn't the government taking them in as much as they should?
I would like to say the Ministry of Health has a very good plan. The scheme of service is in place, saying we want at least 1 graduate at a health center 3, that is at a sub-county level. We need at least 4 at a health center 4. We need at least 16 at a general hospital. But when the human resource structures come out, the one where there is available positions, you find the graduate nurses are almost not there. It is only Mulago National Referral Hospital that has been employing. And you find a few regional referral hospitals. But when you go to the lower health facilities in the district, the health center 3, the health center 4s, the general hospitals, they are not employing the graduate nurses. And we are thinking is because they are not aware of these special skills these graduate nurses have.
Vis-a-vis the traditional.
Vis-a-vis the traditional nurses of certificate and diploma. And then others prefer to promote the diploma holder to a cadre they call senior assistant nursing officer.
Does that promotion happen after they have enhanced their education, or it happens because of hands-on experience?
Many of those are still at diploma level because a graduate nurse or midwife is supposed to be employed as a nursing officer for nursing or a nursing officer for midwifery. And when they get into the system, they get at a very good salary level. We call it U4, Med 2. So they earn about 4 million gross, and they go home with about 3 million.
And how much are the doctors earning?
Of course, the doctors are earning much more than that. And that is another challenge that you have brought up, because the doctors are earning over 5 million. And you know, if you really see the amount of work that is done by the nurses, from admission of a patient to observing you on the ward until discharge, you will spend 90% of your time with the nurses.
Okay. Now, if graduate nurses are earning a gross of about 4 million, how much are the ordinary certificate and diploma holder nurses earn?
This is where another challenge that has come up. The districts may promote a diploma holder to senior assistant nursing officer.
Based on experience.
Based on experience.
Yes.
And may even earn the same salary as a degree nurse. And that is a challenge we are trying to address, and that is one of the areas I want to focus on.
Okay.
Because if you bring in a degree nurse, he would do much more service delivery to the patient, and also supervision, and also mentorship, and also research. Much better than maintaining your staff at a diploma or certificate level.
Okay, the reason why I was asking about the salary scales of different, of nurses, graduate nurses, and then diploma and certificate holder nurses, vis-a-vis the doctors as well, I wanted to ask, it was leading to another question, that do you maybe think that the government, the Ministry of Health, is not placing the graduate nurses or hiring them because they are an expensive spend for the ministry, whereas they can hire the diploma and certificate holder nurses that could be cheaper?
I think let's look at it from another angle.
Okay.
You may hire a certificate or a diploma nurse, but the quality and the quantity of service he or she is delivering is very minimal. And once you hire these people, many of them aspire to also advance their education.
Yes.
No one wants to remain at certificate level, at diploma level. So within 2 years, they are already leaving the facility. They want to go to also do diploma or do a degree. And so to me, you can hire as many certificate and as many diploma, but eventually you lose out in that they will advance to degree, and they will ask for the same higher pay from the same employer.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Now, let's look at policy implementation hurdles. As the president-elect, what do you see are the main obstacles hindering the effective implementation of nursing and midwifery policies and guidelines? And how does the current leadership, your leadership, plan to overcome these challenges?
I think one of the hurdles that is the ministry is facing is in terms of segregation of duties. You know, we have this book we call the Uganda Clinical Guidelines. It's like the reference book. Any clinical worker, whether it being a nurse, whether it being a clinical officer or a doctor, should basically move with from patient to patient to consult what medicine do I give, how much do I give, and so on. And that book has a lot of limitation. I must say the book does not specify the role of nurses and midwives. It only specifies the disease, the cause of the disease, the diagnosis, how to diagnose it, and what treatment to give. But in terms of saying, in addition to dispensing this drug or performing this treatment, these are the nursing care that should be given for a patient with this disease that is completely missed out. So one of the things that I want to do in my tenure as the new president of the Association of Graduate Nurses and Midwives is to mobilize the graduate nurses and midwives of Uganda for us to review these clinical guidelines and make sure that we specify the role of nurses. This is the role for enrolled. This is the role for diploma. This would be the role for a degree nurse for the same disease, so that they begin to see that this is the value, this is the difference that the degree nurses will bring on board when we employ them. I want to say categorically clear, we nurses and midwives have let the population down, especially the patients. I'm sure you have gone to hospitals where you find one person has relatives around him or her, 3 or 4 relatives. Why are those relatives there? Because many of the nursing role that should have been performed by the certificate nurses, like caring, bathing, oral care, turning of the patient, bathing of the patient, all these have been left to the relatives of the patient and who do not know how to do it properly. So in the end, they don't do it well, but also by keeping the relatives of the patient in the hospital, they end up going back to the community with diseases. Hospitals are not safe.
There is also a risk for reinfection of the patients themselves.
There is what we call hospital-acquired infection. Many of these patient relatives come when they are healthy, but they pick diseases from the hospital. And the diseases that they pick from the hospital are even the dangerous ones, the ones we call resistant to drugs, because these are the germs that have learned how to survive within the hospital environment where there are these chemicals and medicines.
And now they're being transferred to homesteads.
They are now being transferred to homestead. And this is because we nurses have now thought our role is just moving from one bed to just distribute medicine. The real nursing care, we have relegated it to the relatives. We have relegated it to the relatives. So this is the role the certificate nurses could focus on.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I've observed that in more developed countries, patients are not taken care of or catered to by the relatives. You go, you visit, you leave. Even when you have a baby in NICU, if the mom is okay, the mom is released, discharged. And now the mom just comes to maybe give breast milk where needed and that and the like, but they're not sleeping in the same room, they're not staying in the hospital. Yet here, the minute you call your sister and you're like, I've been admitted, she packs a suitcase. Because that's what we know. But from what you're sharing, I see it's twofold. There is partly because we have very few nurses in the hospitals, so help is needed, outside help is needed because we don't have enough nurses when you look at the nurse-patient ratio. But then two, it's because they're not being placed enough. Because I've seen strikes where nurses are calling upon the government to place them in hospitals. And they are not being placed. And when the government finally places some, you see that it's also constrained because of finance issues, that it cannot hire everyone at the same time.
Yeah, actually, what you raised is the standard nursing care. The standard is we should minimize outsiders, relatives staying on the ward. I'm sure you have gone to places where you see they are even sleeping under the bed.
That's true. Or on the beds that have been vacated by other patients.
On the beds that have been vacated. So we are missing out. Even look at the bed itself, the dressing of the bed, the way nurses are trained, even how the bed should be positioned is not just like this bed you have in your bedroom back home.
No.
If you have maybe a particular fracture, you have a leg swelling, you have a heart disease, there's a way the bed is supposed to be positioned. If you have problem with breathing, there's a way the patient is supposed to be positioned, not just lying anyhow, any direction. We teach all these things. We teach these patients on how to dress beds, how to make a cardiac bed, how to make beds for fracture, how to make beds for somebody having respiratory disease. But go to the health facilities, see what the nurses are doing. We are all just moving around distributing drugs. The patient, whether he's sleeping in the wrong position, no one cares.
So are you saying that the ordinary certificate and diploma nurses are not trained in issues of that nature, like for instance the bed issue that you have just raised?
The training is given, but because you find one nurse is attending to 30, so he just pushes the trolley and distributes drugs.
Okay.
But if we could get the degree nurses on board, the diploma nurses are there, the certificate nurses are there, and we have segregation of roles. We say, okay, certificate holders take the temperature, take the blood pressure, make sure the hygiene is okay, the beds are well dressed, and so on. Then the diploma holders, moderately low risk tasks, and then the degree nurses handle the critical tasks because they are highly skilled and highly knowledgeable.
Yes.
This segregation has not been specified in the Uganda clinical guidelines.
So everyone is doing
so
what
everyone
they think
thinks, and the nursing role is not even specified. So they think, even the doctors think, what a nurse has to do is just roll a trolley and distribute the drugs. I'm telling you, when prescriptions are written, they may write TDS 3 times a day. You think the patient understands that?
No.
It means totally different thing. We are supposed to explain to this patient 3 times a day is not like taking this drug maybe after every 1 hour and then you finish the 3 drugs. No, the interval is different. After every 8 hours. If we say QID, take this drug after every 6 hours. And this needs to be explained. And some drugs are supposed to be given directly observed. You cannot just give it to the patient and say you swallow. You have to make sure you give it and confirm that the patient has taken it. Like TB drugs, because they could be very bitter and they are not the taste is not so good.
So the patient might find a way around it if you
may hide it or may throw it away.
Now, Professor, I have some views coming through, and the first view is coming in from Odwa Phyllis, and he says, "Good morning. Thank you for the show. I wish the patients were part of the listeners to the conversation. It's good to have highly qualified graduate nurses. There is a big challenge that the professor should address with his colleagues and graduate nurses. When one is highly trained, we expect better services, but in reality, certificate nurses have proved to be committed in their work than these graduate nurses. They are not always there for emergencies. If they are there, they are too slow to act." Someone is saying something about your cohort.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much for that observation. I think generally what we can say is the graduate nurses are not deployed. They are not there where they are needed most. In my perspective, the place where the graduate nurses are needed most are the lower level health facilities, where there's no doctor, where there's no clinical officer, and they have all this knowledge and skills. They can assess the patient, they can administer first-line treatment, they can know when should I refer this patient and so on. But the country generally is missing. If you put these graduate nurses at Molago, where we have hundreds of doctors, then you begin to think, these people are doing nothing. Because there are a lot of doctors and even medical students nursing students to cover up roles, and then you say they are not doing something. So to me, the best time to observe and to say these graduate nurses are not committed, are not doing anything, is after we have deployed them to health center 3s and health center 4s. And that's when we can make such a conclusion.
Okay. Now, the next comment comes in from Provia, who says, good morning. Thank you for the wonderful show to enlighten us more on graduate nurses. And then she goes on to ask that you help the public to understand the certificate nurses, phasing them out, and yet no, let me paraphrase. She's saying certificate nurses are being phased out, but there is no regulation when it comes to the training schools and institutions.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Personally, as president-elect and somebody who has gone through the various levels of training, I have been training nurses for many years, and I have seen what is happening in the health facility. I personally would not say the certificate nurses should be phased out, because we have a big gap in the basic care that should be given to patients. Basic care I had already talked about. The hospital environment should be very clean and safe. You have seen these cleaners who just come and clean the floor. That is not cleaning to us as nurses.
I've entered hospitals.
You have to clean the bed.
Yes.
You have to clean the windows. You have to clean the bed rails. You have to clean the doors. Frequent touch areas. You have to do damp dusting, not just with water, with effective disinfectants and detergents that we use. This, and then in terms of even dressing the bed, changing the bed, positioning the bed, there are some conditions where the patient has to be turned 2 hourly, after every 2 hours. How do you expect an enrolled nurse who just walks through to turn a patient every 2 hours? Even it is not just turning. If a patient has, for example, a fracture of the neck, you don't just turn anyhowly.
A C-section mother.
You don't just turn anyhowly.
Yes.
So there's a way even how to turn this person. So there is a role the enrolled nurses, the certificate nurses could play. Even the founder of nursing, the one called Florence Nightingale, the so-called, the one we call the founder of nursing, has emphasized environmental nursing. She was working in the war. There was a war in the World War where many soldiers were injured. And she realized when you keep the environment where these wounded soldiers are recovering from the wound, they recover quickly. And for her, nursing is keeping the environment clean, keeping the patient clean, and then the patient will recover quickly. But today, just go to our health facilities. Just go to our health facilities.
They are stinking, the floors are dirty, the beds. I've experienced this.
In fact, I want to say one thing. The patients are not supposed to even bring their own bed sheets, because we cannot trust the hygiene of that bed sheet. Where is it coming from? The home where she's coming with those linens, we call them linens, the bed sheets and blankets.
Yes.
It's not as clean as the way the patient is supposed to be.
It's not up to the standards of a hospital.
It's not to the standard of the hospital. So we still have a lot. And then I want to also say, you must have seen how nurses spend time to clean instruments. The forceps that we use, all these instruments that we use for care, they have to be washed, they have to be disinfected, they have to be sterilized. These are roles the certificate nurses can help us in. So I personally do not support phasing them out, but we should get them a very dedicated role, observing, keeping the environment clean, making sure the patients are on the right kind of bed, they are lying in the right kind of position, say temperatures are taken, blood pressures are being monitored. I tell you, Olive, it is not just taking the temperature and the blood pressure or the weight when the patient is coming in. It depends on the disease condition.
I've noticed for everything you're triaged, and they're checking the blood pressure, and they're checking the temperature. Like, that is the standard, and the weight it's expected, and maybe in some cases the height.
You see that initial one, when the person is coming in, is just to assess whether this person is in critical condition. Does he or she need immediate first aid or resuscitation and stabilization before he is transferred to see maybe a doctor or so on. But there are conditions where you have to monitor the temperature after every 6 hours. Even just malaria, even typhoid, you have to monitor the temperature at a specific interval. And this can only be done when we make sure the certificate nurses are really doing all this observation that the doctor needs, or that is needed for diagnosis and care of the patient. So I'm just trying to bring that we need them. We need to get these patient relatives back home to do productive activities for the country.
So we need to keep the enrolled nurses in the hospital, but to do this, we need to specify the roles of different cadres of nurses.
Exactly.
The roles of enrolled nurses and the roles of graduate nurses.
Exactly.
Now, I have another comment from Stephen, and he says, "Good morning, Professor. I'm Stephen, all the way from Namuwongo. May you kindly clarify about the future prospects of the government, about the job availability of nurses, because I have seen many nurses finish their courses but end up in private clinics where they earn very little money."
Thank you for that question. As I noted earlier, we are very lucky as nurses and midwives of Uganda. We have a very supportive government. We have a very supportive Ministry of Health. And because they have done the scheme of service, there is the scheme of service. Graduate nurses are supposed to join service as nursing officers. And it's specified. And even there is the human resource structure per facility. You know, they say maybe a health center 3 should have maybe 17 or 19 healthcare workers. So, and they specified of these 19 healthcare workers, how many should be doctors, how many should be clinical officers, how many should be midwives, how many should be nurses. So all those are there. The only thing which I think is delaying the implementation is our delay to segregate the roles. What should be the certificate nurses be doing? What should be the role of the diploma nurses? What should be the role of the degree nurses? Because this has not been segregated. There are some employers in the districts. They say, we don't need the degrees because we don't know what they are going to do. The same thing they are coming to do, the certificates can do, the diploma can do.
But you have clarified that they cannot. There are differences
I
in the
have
scope of
clarified
work
that
they
our
can
patients are missing a lot. The population is missing a lot, and we are putting our relatives, the relatives of patients, at a greater risk. We have relegated the nursing care to these people. Imagine just, they just give you an envelope. There you take. No one is there to observe really they are taking the drugs according to the way it is prescribed. So the delay, I think, is we, the graduate nurses and midwives of Uganda, have also not taken the initiative to sensitize or to inform the employers about the difference in roles that needs to be there.
Okay.
What difference this can come.
And that's from my observation and from following what you have shared with us. Identifying or distinguishing the differences would actually help to know who does what, and that would also feed into the notice or the actualization that, oh, we need graduate nurses actually. Yes. After all is said and done, we need them on board.
Yes.
Now, another comment is coming in from Omohinda, I don't know if that is your actual name, but he says, I'm glad to be listening to this program as a healthcare consumer. I have previously been a patient in one of the urban hospitals. I can attest that we need highly trained nurses in lower level facilities because nurses are doing great work in private hospitals in Kampala and other cities. Thank you so much for that observation. And that observation also feeds into this comment from, there is a comment from Turiatemba Stephen, who says, let nurses be employed in rural health centers because we are lacking health service. Turiatemba Stephen from Rubirizi, Katerera. So, yeah, I believe these two comments are intermarried and they speak of the same thing.
Yes.
If we can have the graduate nurses placed in rural hospitals, in health center 2s, 3s, and 4s, we would see a great shift in the healthcare service in the country.
Olive, one thing I want to say is in some of the high-income countries, we have what they call nursing homes, or maternity homes. So these or domiciliary homes, these are facilities that are run by nurses. You will not even find a doctor there. They are taking care of elderly people, older persons. They are managing all the symptoms. They are giving all the care this person needs. Because when somebody is 90 years old, you may find they cannot provide the self-care. And in their setting, the relatives are not there to be there. So the nurses have to do everything. And I want to say, the quality and the standard of graduate nurses we are training in Uganda is very high. They know a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the next comment is from Adrawa Michael in Moyo. He says he's an old friend of yours. And he says, greetings to Professor, my old friend. The Ministries of Health and Public Service have okayed the implementation of the scheme of service for nurses and midwives, but also the revised structure in a phased manner of wage allowing. What's now pending is the implementation of the scope of work for nurses and midwives. Now, upon this comment from Adra Michael, please, Professor, share your last comments.
I think we all know how the districts are run or managed or governed. We have these chief administrative officers, then we have district health officers, assistant district health officers, and then we have the district service commission. These people come up with recruitment, like decision, let us have 50 enrolled or certificate nurses. They make this decision without getting data, information. One of the things I would request any health development partner out there to help us in is to allow us have nursing and midwifery workforce fellowships. We want to assist the districts in analyzing the gaps that they have. That, you know, this is the available pool of nurses we have. This is the gap you have. And in future, if you want to recruit, prioritize this, because this is the need your facilities have. This is the need your community have. Are these decisions made based on the diseases that are prevalent? Are these recruitment decisions made based on the gaps? Or they just want to say, okay, health center 2s, let's just put certificate. Is that based on the prevalent diseases in that area? Or the need for skills in that area? Or just... So it has become like stereotyping. Health center 2, put certificate. Health center 3, put diploma, without proper analysis of the needs and the skill set required to address the local health problems in that community.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I've been speaking to Professor Edward Kumakech, who is the president-elect for the Association of Graduate Nurses and Midwives of Uganda. He was voted in yesterday, and very soon he will be swearing in as the president of the Association of Graduate Nurses and Midwives of Uganda. Now, I'll share the last comment from Wilfred, who says that you are his OB, and he says, I salute you, Professor. You were one of the pioneer graduates of nursing in 1997, in the 1997 admission. My appeal to you is to inspire Nebi community to enroll more in that. And this is Wilfred Thogang from Pakwach. And he goes on to again say, I suggest the specific roles of nurses and the boundary of their roles in respect to their grades should be enforced through local government systems. The ministry can intervene through supervision. Well, thank you so much. I see your views coming through, and I do appreciate you being part of this conversation. Unfortunately, time is not our friend at this juncture, but thank you so much for watching Good Morning Uganda. Up next is Sports Updates.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th March. It is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination play by women. On Saturday, 8th March, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. The national celebrations will be held in Changwanzi district under the theme Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest. Join us for the live broadcast to witness outstanding women receive medals in recognition of their achievements and contributions to the country. Happy Women's Day.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning